Do you know what this is?
This is Ham Radio Now, episode number. I don't know the number.
Oh, wait.
377. Full session.
It will
11.
It will be all that. There we go.
Ta-da!
And now you have to interpret the hieroglyphics.
Oh, no, I don't. It's really easy. It's ARL, CQ, and Happy New Year.
From Facebook Live.
From Facebook Live. Oh, you didn't put that part in the title of the posting, which is where I read it from.
I
cheated.
Gave you a clue. All right, we'll do this then.
Woohoo! I'm your co-host, David Goldenberg, W0DHG.
I got to make that host. I got to change that to host.
Okay, you fix that.
Yeah, and me.
Send me the copy.
Gary Pierce, KN4AQ. And back down to the bug. There we go. So yeah, ARL, CQ, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. This is our holiday wrap-up show without the holiday.
Yeah.
Which we talked about doing. We got on to bigger and better things.
Yeah. So let me point out something that if it looks like I'm growing a beard, I don't know if you can tell across the layers of Skype.
A little bit.
I can zoom in and make it real obvious.
Oh, now I can see it. Gary's kind of stubbly.
Yeah. I was going to say I'm not growing a beard, but clearly I am.
Well, everybody is every day. It just depends on how long you let it go for.
Exactly. So here's what happened. Over the Christmas holiday last weekend, I was down in Charlotte with Cindy visiting her folks, and I hear hisses. It's hissy.
Hissy?
Yeah.
Folks, I can go.
Folks are going to hear that if they got headphones on, maybe.
I can fix it quick for this session by going USB.
Yeah, let's give that a try.
All right.
So, meanwhile, I will tell the story.
Telling the story. I can do it right from where I sit.
See how this works.
As long as I don't hit the power off button.
Yep. So over the holiday was down in Charlotte with my lovely wife Cindy, and she says, "Can I borrow your razor?" We both have Harry's. This episode of Ham Radio Now is apparently brought to you by Harry's. Oh, that reminds me, I forgot to do this, David.
Is that a new sponsor?
I wish, but we did forget to do this. So
I'm going to go quiet for a second.
You've gone very quiet. You may have to tell Skype to find that again. That's Giorgio in the background there. Cat number 6. And you may see Rusty. He's walking across the. He's gone behind. You may see him go by there in a moment. We'll see. He's gone to hide. Giorgio is his brother. Still hearing nothing from David. So I was going to say Ham Radio Now is brought to you by you. It's not brought to you by Harry's. Okay, so you may have to restart Skype or something. I don't know. We'll make you go away. I'm watching you here on the monitor. We'll see what happens. So I can make this go away too. You know what to do. It's not tax deductible like all the other charities are telling you, hurry up before the end of the year. Sorry, we're not. So down in Charlotte, and Cindy says, "Can I borrow your razor?" And she thought she had forgot hers, so I gave her mine, and I was going to leave that day and come back up here. So I get back up here, and I said, "I'll just use yours. It's the same." And no razor. So she found hers. Now she had hers and mine. So I have not been shaving all week. I wouldn't have anyway, probably, just because, why? Okay. Get David back on the line here.
Yes, of course. As soon as I hung up on Skype, it said, "Oh, hey, your USB microphone is ready to go."
Okay, let's see if that makes it. So far, it's quiet.
Okay. All right.
So
we'll look at different possibilities.
So I was down in Charlotte with Cindy, and she wanted to borrow my razor because she forgot hers. She thought. So I was heading home, and I just said, "Well, I'll just use yours when I get home." I get home, no razor. She found hers. She had both now in Charlotte. She was there for the week helping her folks out. So that's why now I think I'll just grow the beard.
All right.
It's going to come in salt and pepper. It won't be the, sandy blonde like my hair. And Cindy is objecting to this. I may find myself shaved in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it's really hard for somebody to shave somebody else. Good luck with that.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Okay, well, so let's change the order up just a little bit. And first, we'll do the CQ thing. There's two things that we'll notice from CQ, from their website. And the first is that they are jump-starting the print edition. And this is kind of like, again, with the January issue. You were looking for something on the newsstand a while back. And I think the October issue or something, and never found it.
No, it did come in eventually.
Okay.
So there was the issue that we had the centerfold. It wasn't quite the centerfold, but we were in it. And I don't
remember posing for that picture.
Yeah, I don't remember either. You just sent me the link. When you sent me the link in the PDF, I thought, oh, well, I should go own a copy or 2 or 3. So I called our local HRO, and he said, yeah, if it's in the October edition, they might get it in December or January.
Okay. But they got it sooner than that.
They did. I think they got it like the end of November. So I have a couple copies. And he said he put a whole case of them aside for me, but I didn't really want the whole case. Yep. Thank you, Eric.
So what they're saying is that the November and December issues, they never ended up printing a paper copy. And so digital only. And they'll get back to print with the January issue and hope that they get back in sync and get it sent out toward the beginning of the month.
And it looks like at the end that they're going to extend all print subscriptions for 2 additional months.
Right.
Okay.
And
make up.
And well, normally the digital edition is only available to people who specifically subscribe to that. You can subscribe to just paper, just digital, or both, and it's actually a little more expensive for both. I'm just digital, but anybody can get these 2 issues and see what the and this is at their website, cq-amateur-radio.com, and then look at their news thing. And the URL I'm looking at here is cqnewsroom.blogspot.com. And it'll get so complicated. Anyway, anybody can pick up those 2 issues. Yeah, it does say anyone can access them. Okay, so that's, good news, bad news. I guess mostly not so good news from CQ. They've been through this before a couple of years ago. Weren't able to keep up with print. And for those of you that are not real familiar with the magazine publishing business, if they've got the digital issue ready, and the digital copy is identical to the print copy, it is the same format, same layout. What that means is that they're done preparing the issue, all of the writing, all of the formatting, all that stuff. It's all done. And ready to go to the printer. And so if it doesn't go to the printer and doesn't get printed and doesn't get mailed, there's kind of only one thing you can assume from that, and that is they don't have enough money to pay the printer to publish it and the post office to mail it.
Right. Or one or the other or both.
Yeah. We'll talk to Rich again soon. There may be something else about that, but that's the only thing I can think of. I have published a regional magazine for a few years, and those were the steps I went through. At first, made up the magazine, had a PDF ready to go, and sent that to the printer, and printer printed it, sent it to the post office, and off I went. So it indicates that CQ is still having financial issues, that they're kind of on the edge.
Yep.
And you're still got a lot of latency between your video and audio. The video comes in first, which is unusual, and the audio is coming in late. That may just be a Skype thing. But
Yeah, because I'm not really processing anything. I don't have even have Wirecast on this side right now.
Yeah. So if folks are seeing David look a little bit, for those watching the video, seeing David look a little bit like a Japanese dubbed movie. And the audio audience is going, I don't care. Who
They
cares?
don't matter.
Yeah. Who cares?
It all looks perfect to them.
Yeah. So, we'll catch up with Rich, I guess, and see what's going on. What makes this particularly unfortunate is the next thing that is there on the CQ news site. I'm still froggy tonight. ARL Board of Directors has got more new stuff that apparently they've been tossing out. So we've seen the code of conduct was not new. That was from last January.
Right.
And then we saw the proposal that the president and vice presidents would get votes at the board meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we saw last time.
Yep.
And now another director has made another proposal. And again, these are just proposals that they'll be coming up in theory at the board meeting late in January, somewhere around the 20th, I think. Did we know who came up with this one?
I think if you go down to the notes, there was a name of the submitter, or not.
Yeah, I don't see. It might be over at Dan's blog, and I'll take a look at Dan's blog.
It may be in Dan's blog.
Yep.
One of the other feeds we got.
Yeah, if you go to the CQ newsroom, you can download the proposal that's coming up. It's also on Dan KB6NU's blog, kb6nu.com. And here he's saying, what the heck is the ARL board thinking? But wait, there's more.
There's more.
Yeah. How much would you pay?
How much would you pay? Apparently,
how much would you pay for this ARL board of directors?
And apparently, if you read the red line stuff, it won't be $49 anymore. It'll be whatever they say it is.
Well,
because that's another one of the changes.
Yeah, this is back to Dan's blog. They're coming up with a lot of stuff.
Yep.
And it is. I don't see attribution here either, but it's one of the directors, and it's not Mike Lysenko. It's another director. I went through all of the stuff, all of the actual proposal, and there are a couple of dozen or three minor alterations to wording of the ARL bylaws and articles of incorporation, maybe. And there's only a few of them that come with red flags. And Dan has
he did a summary
done a pretty good job of summarizing them. You want to read these to the audience?
Sure, it'll be out of sync, but you can't see me anyway. So
Right.
One will give the board of directors the power to revoke individual memberships, quote, for cause, after affording the member an opportunity to respond in writing, unquote, by a simple majority vote. So
Okay.
that's one.
Yeah,
Do you want to break them apart as we go through?
Yeah, because I didn't have time. I was going to go through the existing articles and bylaws and see what they had for removing a member now, and I didn't get a chance to do that. I don't know. I went through them a few weeks ago when the vote stuff happened, and I don't remember seeing anything. I was specifically looking to see what it said about removing a director. I wasn't looking for removing an ordinary member, but I think that something like that would have stood out to me. There might not be anything there.
Yeah,
We'll go look.
I thought there was some conversation that we had earlier about being a membership organization. Man, I can't remember if we said you couldn't or if it was just
It would be. I'd actually find it odd if they can't remove a member, but
for some kind of cause, I'd assume.
yeah. So anyway, step number 1 or part 1 is revoke individual memberships for cause by a simple majority vote. I don't know. Maybe that's what changes it. It's
maybe it's a percentage.
Yeah. And that's item number 2.
So item number 2, remove the right of vice directors to attend board meetings, except by invitation of directors.
Oh, sorry. I moved number 2 up to the top.
Oh, you moved to the top.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. I skipped down. Okay, so number 2 would be remove specific dues rate from the bylaws, instead stating that the dues shall be an amount set by the board of directors, in parentheses, effectively making it possible for the board to raise dues by a majority vote rather than the 2/3 to 3/4 vote required for changes in the bylaws.
All right.
And when we looked at that, I looked at that in the red line, and basically in the red line part of the bylaws originally in the stuff that got edited, basically it said, the dues will be this amount, and it was crossed out, and then they added, the dues would be set by the board, based on a vote. And as we kind of kicked around before we had the show, some of this looks like they finally put it in front of an attorney, and the attorney said, "Oh, this is all terrible, and it needs to be rewritten."
Yeah. And getting the dues rate out of the bylaws is probably a good idea. You don't want to be changing the bylaws every time you got to change dues.
Right.
Okay. Now, number 3 is going to slide up. So there you go with the vice director.
Yeah. So again, and remove the right of vice directors to attend board meetings, except by invitation of the directors. That still seems a little vague to me. So 1 vice director, 2 vice directors, your vice director, all of the vice directors.
Yeah, the vice directors,
simple majority, or everybody has to invite him, or
vice directors have not been able to do anything but sit there and watch. They can't participate in discussion. They can't vote unless they are there in stead of the director who can't participate, which is the purpose of the vice director. But again, we don't know why this is being proposed, and it may get. This is the kind of thing that the board may say, "What? What are you talking about?" And the other thing that occurred to me as we were seeing these various things is, I hope we're not being punked.
Yeah. Okay.
Because somebody could have said, Gary and David
let's give them something to talk about.
Dan and Rich over at CQ, they're giving us a lot of Sterling Silver. They're giving us a lot of heat here. Let's just write up some garbage and leak it to them and watch them do a show for nothing. That could happen. It's happened to bigger operations than us, but there's just so much in here that somebody would have spent a lot of time. So, and it came to you and Dan and Rich by different routes. So
yes, we were all contacted separately by different unnamed or named sources.
Well, and these all needed to be in the hands of the directors more than 30 days before the board meeting in order to have a 2/3 vote instead of a 3/4 vote to pass a bylaws change.
Right.
So it lowers the bar a little bit. And they've got some directors that are, I haven't seen anything, get posted any place. But we got some directors that are not going to go along with this. So they
but it may not be more than a third.
Yeah, so they need to lower the bar. Well, there's 3 or 4 directors that, I guess 4, that are kind of suspicious about activity like this. And now we're in the zone of time where they could talk about it. So I haven't gone after everybody because it's the middle of the holiday season, and I didn't want to go bother people. But we'll have a couple of weeks in the beginning of January where we can say you can talk about this without violating non-disclosures and codes of conduct because it hasn't come up yet.
Right.
They're just proposals. You can talk to us, which I would like them to do.
Yep. Okay, so the next one will be prohibit members recalling directors during the first 6 months of a 3-year term of office or after June 1st of the term's final year.
So with a petition signed by enough members of a division, a director can have a recall election against them. And
Right.
this would keep that from happening within the first 6 months or after June of the final year, which
It'd be like the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Kind of. Not exactly. I guess it depends on when their election is.
the elections are, I think they start to send out, well, they get nominations in June and they send out ballots in August. So there may be something to that. I don't know why the first 6 months would be, other than it's very disruptive.
Right. It may be hard to place or replace, or who knows. Okay, so the next one is
Back up at the top.
Yep. I have to move. There's a little the Skype previews over there. Incorporate the board's conflict of interest policy and code of conduct into the bylaws.
So right now it's just something they voted on. I
Right.
guess.
Right. And then it would be part of the bylaws. So it means not only if we wanted them to get rid of it from the code of conduct standpoint, they'd have to change the bylaws as well, if it gets into the bylaws. And I don't know what the repercussions in terms of changing. I guess changing the bylaws is still that 2/3.
2/3, 3/4.
2/3, 3/4.
Depending on the timing.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so here's this next one is going to be
so then-
controversial.
The next one is give the board powers to remove from office by a 2/3 vote any officer, director, or vice director for cause, in quotes, by revoking that person's ARRL membership after providing the subject of such action with an opportunity for a hearing prior to the board vote.
Yeah. So I don't know if anywhere things are specified as to what for cause is, what the causes could be. I don't know what those would be.
Right.
We've seen people denied the opportunity to run for director because of a, quote, conflict of interest. That was the case with the vice director from the Atlantic Division and K3RF, I think. And he wasn't told. I've seen a lot of documentation on that that's out there available for anybody. It's on the Atlantic Division website. He
Right.
wasn't. He tried to get information about why. What is this conflict of interest you speak of, and they wouldn't tell him.
Right. But the other thing about this that seems odd is if you go back and look at the text, so there's just three different types of people you could remove. An officer, and the officer is
It'd be president, vice president,
right,
treasurer, secretary.
and those people get their positions from a vote by the directors, right?
Right.
Right. So okay, I'm good with that. Since they elected him, they could remove them. But for the director and the vice directors, who put those people into office?
Yeah.
I did,
Yeah,
right?
we
You
did.
did, I did, we did. And so giving the board the power to remove someone that I put in to represent me, that's the first one I get. The director and the vice director seems more troubling.
Yeah.
Especially without for cause being defined.
And because the for cause seems to be mysterious and perhaps a little bit abused.
And again, maybe they're punking us.
Maybe they are. It's a lot of work. If you guys, I'm willing to put in this work. If you guys were we're willing to put in that. So here we go.
Yep. All right. So it's the next one. Give the board the power to reprimand or censure a member in lieu of removal. But in this case, quote, no advance notice or opportunity to be heard shall be applicable to the censure vote. So okay, actually,
that's a member. That's you and me.
That's a member. So that means they could take my membership away.
Yeah. Well, in lieu of removal,
Well,
we could be reprimanded or we could be censured for putting on a podcast that is critical of a ARL policy or proposal.
Well, so that brings me back to roll back one more. Sorry, I know you hate going back, but I want to go back a little bit. So in the one before, the last after the semicolon, after providing the subject such action with an opportunity for a hearing prior to the board vote. So an officer or director or a vice director does something that creates the for cause situation. And then what's going to happen? I'm an unhappy director and I think you director doesn't belong here anymore. And I'm going to want to vote for you to be removed. But prior to me doing that, I need to have a hearing to give you an opportunity to
a hearing prior to removal.
To the removal.
Yeah.
No, prior to the vote. To the vote.
Well, but the vote to remove.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But if it's just going to be a slap on the wrist,
right?
Then they can do that without without telling you and without giving you any notice. They could just do it. The thing about that is apparently that those can be brought up when someone is going to, well, for a director or vice director when they're going to be reelected. That seems to be enough to keep them, for the ethics committee to say,
pull them out.
Yeah, you don't get to run again.
Right, because directors and vice directors, they're going to be members. So
for us plain old members, it's probably not that big a deal. Who cares if the ARL censures me? But if they're doing that to a member who happens to be a director, well, that could be a bigger deal.
Right. So, well, and it's shown that they've kind of done that. They did that with Dick Norton.
Yeah. So we need explanation about what this is all about.
Right. All right. And then the last one, here's a big one. Prohibit current, future, and past board members from taking the league or any of its officers or directors to court as a result of disputes among board members or between a board member and the league as a whole. Rather, any disputes would require to be submitted of binding arbitration. And as a condition of service or continued service as an officer, director, vice director, all officers, directors, vice directors, and candidates for such office will expressly waive any rights to sue anyone acting on behalf of the corporation in court, either during their term of office or thereafter. So typical binding arbitration. Typical,
and something that I don't think, well, lawyers don't want to recommend binding arbitration because they lose their leverage.
Right.
They lose their income.
Well, and there's other places too, like in California, these type of clauses don't hold water. You cannot, in California, you can't sign away your right. And this basically is seen as signing away your right to do something, which is, take someone to court. So it's typically, yes, a lot of people will go to the arbitration because everybody except the attorneys save money. But it's not always the way that people want to go. And eventually some things do end up in court. And even though the corporation or whatever will take out this thing saying, well, you agreed to binding arbitration, the court will say, yeah, thanks. Let's go ahead and adjudicate this.
Yeah. So you will see this never brought up on behalf of the individual who is joining, buying, or subscribing to a service or whatever. You will always see it either offered or required by
the other side,
the company or the organization that is, the potential.
It's the employer, the seller, the service provider.
Yeah, that's where they all come from. Okay, so those are the ones that Dan had flagged. I recommend if you're interested, go to either the kb6nu.com. I think he's got the links.
For sure in Rich's post, there's a link to like the redlined. Oh, I think it's here too.
I'm not seeing it here right now.
Yeah, if you go back to Rich's on CQ, where he posted it in the news, there's a link right there. not the go up a little bit more. Actually,
Okay.
that's a better one right there. That has all the red lines, and if you go in through that one, is the one I read or tried to get all the way through. It'll show you specifically where there are the changes to the different parts, and this is where like things like the amount of dues down a little bit more kind of stands out in. Keep going.
There's quite a bit.
Yeah.
This one little spot, it just changes,
Yeah.
adds a couple words.
This is the
Don't
part
think it
like
changes meaning very much.
in my corporate job, this is the part where whenever we entered into any contract as the corporation, it has to go to our legal team, and it comes back looking like this. it's like fix the grammar, fix the wording, take out the stupid stuff, and
fix
make
fix
it
stuff that seems trivial but has legal implications.
exactly something that someone else could say. Well, you said that blah blah blah, and it should be yeah, and it's okay. Great.
Yeah.
They pay those people for that. They do a good job.
Okay, so it is the Articles of Incorporation and the bylaws.
Yes.
That's what I was looking at.
And somewhere in there was like the membership, and it basically right there. So right there it says, it used to say the dues of members shall be $49 annually. Right now it'll change to membership dues shall be determined from time to time by the board of directors or payable in advance. So that's one of those things so that you don't have to go and change the bylaws every time you want to change the dues. Right.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that's probably reasonable to do.
Sure. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. And I don't expect them to come back and say, next year your membership is now $500 and the year after that it's going to be, who knows. It's just this makes it more practical.
They always do the calculation of how much more they think they're going to get minus how many people they're going to lose.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they went a long time between the last dues increase.
Right.
They've gone, they worked pretty hard on reducing costs. Some people think they went a little too hard on reducing costs. They got rid of people like, the Alzheimer's is kicking in. Names are going away. Their chief technology officer, who I've interviewed several times.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the two guys that would go to the Geneva conferences, the administrative conferences, and fight for new stuff and try to protect what we have from encroachment by other countries. And he's now happily in private industry, probably making a whole lot more money. There's an interesting thing on QRZ. Somebody released a tax form, said public record tax form that showed the salaries of all of the officers.
Oh,
I don't know if you saw that.
I did not see that. Is it good to work in Newington, Connecticut?
Well, most of the top brass there were in the six-figure income, the low six. I think the David Sumner was about $150,000 or so, and treasurers and other folks were in the low hundred, and a few folks in the high 60s, 70s, 80s. So, for an organization with this many members and that much going on, that's probably reasonable. I don't know. I've never made that much money, but then I haven't been the CEO of a big organization like that. And I know a lot of people in the RTP, the Research Triangle area at the big tech companies, they're pulling in money like that without being in charge at all. So, yeah, if you're earning $35,000 a year, that probably looks like somebody's being paid a lot. But if you're earning $35,000 a year, you're probably a clerk at a store, and your responsibilities are not going to be that great.
Right.
So,
right.
Anyway. All right. So you can go get this stuff and look at it yourself, and you can see here on the video what the changes look like. Lots and lots and lots of stuff crossed out. So Dan just went through a few specific items that he thought caught his attention. And again, it's coming up. So I guess the question then becomes, well, what do you do about it?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like this, you reach out to your director, who will assume will be voting on it.
Yeah. And now they're supposed to be able to talk to you about it.
Yeah, until it's done.
Right.
And then once it's done,
and this is approved, and all they can do is say,
this is what we decided.
We agree with it. It's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they fail to do that, then they can be censured and booted out. And apparently easier to boot them out.
Right. Well, if they agree to this and if they integrate it in.
Yeah. And what that brings to mind is something that I saw on TV a long, long, long time ago. And it goes like this.
Wrong thinking is punishable. Right thinking will be as quickly rewarded. You will find it an effective combination.
I'm taking a big risk there.
Yeah. Take down.
Yes, because it would be very hard to justify that as fair use.
Yeah. Well,
the some of the aspects of fair use would work. You know.
Yeah.
That's an old show, and I used very little of it, but
right.
I'm not using that as in criticism or analysis of the program it came from.
Yeah, there's
using it to support my point.
So worst case scenario, if it's taken down, we just go clip those 10 seconds out.
And more likely that it would be monetized. So that means if you're watching on YouTube, you might have seen a pre-roll ahead of this. There was something else, because I went searching. That was the one I was thinking of. Mm-hmm. But I went searching for video for programs that had the concept of wrong thinking and right thinking. And I found a lot, but they were all religious sermons and talks and stuff like that. And I found a few that were TED Talks and stuff, but they were convoluted, complex arguments that took a long time to understand.
Yeah. But
I found one that I pulled out, and then after I was done with it, I thought, this is close, but not quite. But it's close enough that I'll risk the next takedown and do this one.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I think I need to watch that show.
It's a good show.
Yeah. I don't watch a lot of TV.
You watch Netflix.
Yeah, I don't really think of that as TV. Is this there? I probably should go look and see if it's there.
Yeah, Big Bang is not on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
And in fact, Big Bang is not. It's a CBS show, and Cindy and I got CBS All Access. CBS All Access is available in 2 tiers. For $6, you can get, and it's the online streaming version of CBS. You get most of the shows,
but not that one.
For $6, you get them with commercials, and for $10, you can get them without commercials.
Ooh!
And I should get special dispensation to not ever have to watch a commercial again, or maybe it's just the opposite. I should be in commercial purgatory because I have spent my career making commercials.
Yeah, I was going to say, Gary, maybe this is your commercial hell.
Yeah. So anyway, we get the $10 version. We don't get any commercials, and I've got the YouTube Red for $10 a month. So no pre-rolls or commercials there either.
I made my kids watch the pre-rolls and the commercials.
Yeah. So I remembered that you watched Netflix because you watched what was that?
Bright.
Will Smith.
Bright.
Yeah. So I watched that.
Yeah.
It was okay.
I enjoyed it.
It was okay.
It wasn't as good as I hoped it would be, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
My son came and said, I really liked it, because he caught me about halfway through, and I said, don't watch it halfway through. You got to start from the beginning. He liked it.
Okay. Well, yeah. I didn't think I had wasted my time, and I put it kind of in the same league as when I went and watched Last Jedi.
Yeah, you didn't like that either.
Well, no, I liked it. I just didn't like it as much as I wanted to, and I liked the previous one, Force Awakens. I like that better.
Yes.
But I was a little sleepy maybe. And what I have to realize is that as I go back and remember all of the Star Trek movies that I've watched, I never understood them as they were going on. I never followed the plot very well. I just watched the things blow up and stuff. And then I'd go back and play them again.
Catch up on the real stuff that happened.
Yeah, when they came out on DVD or whatever, on VHS for the first series. And so that's what was going on. I like it a lot better now.
Yeah.
I didn't even mind Jar Jar Binks all that much.
I like Star Wars. I've always liked Star Wars. It wasn't even that episode 1 wasn't terrible. I definitely, I liked this one. I didn't appreciate Frozen flying Princess Leia. Sorry for the spoiler.
I don't think you gave away quite enough.
I think that was a stretch. Let's just say. Stretch. But anyways,
it pulled straight out of Space Odyssey 2001.
Yeah, I don't remember that movie. I know I saw it, but I don't.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
Well, that part I remember, but I don't remember him dead and frozen and that far away. And
no, what he had to do was get from the pod to
around
the pod bay through the empty space.
Yeah.
And do it fast enough that he wouldn't blow up.
But he was in a suit, wasn't he?
No. Well, he was in a suit, but he didn't have his helmet. Dave, you forgot your helmet, Dave.
Yeah, I know. I have to go back and watch that. But anyhow, I did enjoy it.
I didn't understand the plot on that one either the first time, but I got it after I watched it 5 or 6 more times.
Yeah, I think I fall into that. I've seen it twice and probably didn't get the whole thing either.
Yeah. It's time to watch it again.
Yep. Somewhere it's in my DVD player. I'll have to open that up and see if it still works.
Yep. All right. I got a couple other things I want to toss in here.
Okay.
Sort of a year-end wrap-up of the show, state of the show.
Yep.
I dug into QuickBooks and took a look at what kind of money we made this year. I usually track that throughout the year, but I really hadn't looked at it very much. So this is what we took in during the year.
Da-da-da-da-da.
So Patreon totaled up, what does it say, $38.27. Ham Radio Now contributions other is left over from PayPal. So PayPal is still way ahead at $6,000. So our total is $9,904.53. The DVD sales or other $5. I'm not sure what that is. I didn't go back to figure it out. But basically almost $10,000 for this year. Let's compare that to last year. When
last year you did a Kickstarter,
and that's sort of
there's a
skews the results, but it's have it separate. So between the Patreon, which was not available all year,
right,
and then other contributions, it totaled what is more typical for the past several years, about $7,200, about $7,000, and then the Kickstarter took in $5,500. And then apparently I sold a few DVDs, $225 worth of DVDs. They are no longer available. I've taken them off the website.
But so you made $5 this year. Or you attributed $5 to the sales in that category. I shouldn't slow you down.
I don't sell any DVDs for $5, so I don't know what that was. So anyway, so last year was just a hair under $13,000. And this year was almost $10,000. So about $3,000 less. And that also sort of means that I think we can attribute the higher amount without the Kickstarter to Hams making a contribution based on my doing the Tapper conference that they made that they might not have made otherwise in lieu of a Kickstarter. So Kickstarter should have been $5,000 or $6,000 and we ended up with a $3,000 bump from what's not Kickstarter stuff. So maybe we can sort of attribute that to contributions for the Tapper conference, which is about half of what I need to be able to do something like that. So
yeah, and you didn't push so hard. You pushed real hard in the past years to get that. and without pushing maybe that, you didn't get some of the contributions you might have otherwise.
So that's a lesson. The lesson for me, and then sort of a lesson for audience members that you look at what you do, and now you see what other people do, which is, I'll think about it. It'd be nice to send them some money. I still find it really incredible when someone takes the time and trouble to go online, get their credit card out, go online, go to the website, click all the buttons, fill out the forms, and send money to us for doing this. We need you to do it, but I'm still kind of blown away when they do it, while at the same time saying, but it's not nearly enough.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'll be working on content.
Yeah.
So we can draw a little more in.
So explain that new Ham Radio Now logo behind you.
Oh, so I'll explain it. So one of our happy fans, and I'll have to go back to my log because I've been such a crazy week with moving and whatever. Sent me. Can you see it all? I have to move the camera a little bit.
It's all there.
Oh no! You know where it was? It was here. Tell you what, I'm a little embarrassed to say I can't remember it. When it
Can't remember who sent it. That's okay.
Oh no, I remember. It was Mark Cartwright sent it.
Oh, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Competition for number one fan.
He put it together. West Coast Studio.
Oh, I see. I didn't see that part before.
Yeah. So I put it up there, and
thank you, Mark.
Yeah, he actually sent it a couple of weeks ago before the last show, and sent me notes saying, "Hey, how did it work out?" And I was like, "Oh, it worked great. It looks beautiful, but I don't. I haven't. Well, every time I sat down to do the last show or last two shows, I think it was the last show, I sat down to do it, and I think about halfway into the show, I thought, hey, it'd be really awesome if I had that awesome new logo behind me, but I don't.
Yeah, I just noticed on this shot, with the backlighting, you can see the scruffy beard.
Yes. Oh, your scruffy beard. Yeah. I've got a little bit going on the sides. But I do that every week pretty much. I'll shave maybe twice a week. I let it get a little scruffy. But it's all white around the sides. So I just leave the goatee because the goatee still has some dark color.
Yeah. So I guess I thought I would talk about what I'm going to be doing, or more appropriately, what I'm not going to be doing.
What are you going to be doing, Gary?
Well, let me talk about what I'm not going to be doing first.
Okay.
As we get into this year, and hopefully within the first couple of weeks, this ARRL stuff is just the worst thing in the world to have happened right now because it's drawing my attention in.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to get out of this here, Ham Radio Now thing, for the most part. As you pick it up, and you have now got Wirecast up and running.
Yep.
And a mixer. I sent you a mixer. So your Ham Radio Now contributions have gone to buying Wirecast and a mixer for David. And you fronted the money for everything else.
Yep.
Computer.
Thank y'all. Yep. I got computer. I got 4 monitors up. I've got a couple cameras, 3 cameras going.
Yeah. Well, got
some of the sound issues.
Yeah. One of our regular viewers actually sent you a pretty substantial direct contribution to you.
Yep.
Which was great. And we don't tell people who sent money and stuff, but maybe we should. Maybe that would be more of a incentive. I don't know. I've never made that big a deal out of it.
Yeah, we could do it like the Boy Scouts. I could put up a big wall of contributions in the back behind me.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Have it scrolling up on the monitor behind you.
Yeah, there you go.
So here's the thing. And as we looked at the money that has come in, and I've mentioned that first of all, I'm grateful for it, and I think that it's incredible and awesome that people do it, and that it's also not enough. It has been the only thing that has kept me making programs for the past year and a half, 2 years. After the 3-year point, we're about to hit 6 years. After the 3-year point, I looked at the viewership of the programs and what it takes to make them, and came to the conclusion that to do this for between 1,000 and maybe 2,000 or 3,000 on a good program, there's some outlier programs that get 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 views, and there's a few, 2 or 3 outlier programs are in the 30,000 view range. But to do most programs for between 800 and 2,000, 2,500, some 3,000. I don't want to do that. So but when those people were contributing up to $7,000 a year for that, that's a ratio that PBS would kill for. To have that,
if you could drive the ratio up.
Yeah,
if you could drive the contributions up or the viewership.
Yeah, and it's all being done by approximately 200 people. Yeah. You know, we have some $2 a month, $1 or $2 a month, which is fine. That what I would love is if we had, and this is a figure that I tossed out when I was first getting started with this, 10,000 viewers, $10 a year, which is less than $1 a month. And that'd be $100,000. And that would be something that could sustain doing a serious program with some traveling and production in it. But that we haven't ever come close to that. So that's what I was looking at. And after 3 years saying, no, we're not coming anywhere close to that. And I think that was a reasonable thing to look at. So I don't want to play anymore. You know, and I feel bad at the folks that have really supported the program financially, enthusiastically, talking to us about what they like, seeing us at Hamfests. We'll see me. I don't know if you've been accosted yet out there on the street.
Nope.
But you will be.
Yep.
So it's I kept doing it until I came up with something else that I wanted to do different. And it began last January when Donald Trump was elected president. And I watched Inauguration Day. And then the next day I watched something that absolutely blew me away. And I know that the audience will have divided political allegiances to this. And the folks that are Trump supporters will think, why are you bothering putting this on a Ham Radio Now show? We've kept our politics out of it for the most part. But this is the explanation for what I went through and why I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And quite happily turn the program over to you for as much as you can do with it in any direction you want to go with it. It'll be yours. It was the next day, the day after the inauguration, that they did the Women's March. And I thought, because being a lefty that I am, when Trump was elected, it was disappointing. And you go through the inauguration and you say, yeah, okay, we got 4 years of this. And the next day there was all this energy and all this tremendous backlash. And I was thinking, I want to add to that. I was afraid that it would dissipate, and it has not. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I can do, this is what I do, this media stuff. And I wanted to be able to use that to put something together. So my number one consideration as it stands right now, especially here in North Carolina, is the concept of gerrymandering. We are a highly gerrymandered state. There's a few others, Michigan. And the Republicans get elected to office out of proportion to the number of people that are voting Republican in the state. In North Carolina, that is flipped from what it used to be. It used to be Democrats were elected out of proportion, but not nearly as badly out of proportion. The Republicans have learned some algorithmic techniques to adjust district lines, both congressional, U.S. congressional and state legislature. They've adjusted those lines to maximize the benefit for themselves. That's one of the big issues that I've got. And I've been listening to, if you're interested in that particular topic, to the podcasts from the group 538.com. They're primarily pollsters, but they also do some political podcasts. And they've had a gerrymandering series, and it's been pretty interesting. I've learned a lot, and it's getting rid of gerrymandering is not going to be easy, because the idea of saying let's have district lines drawn by a nonpartisan commission, that is hard, as it turns out. Arizona tried it, and somewhat successfully, but it is not as easy as you might think, especially in the highly politically charged area that we are now, because nobody is happy with the way those turn out. So everybody's complaining. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be going to do. If you want to look for the show, the title will be Triangle Talk Show. It'll be local. There's 3 congressional districts that carve up the territory that we're in. There's 1 Democrat, 2 Republicans. And my goal will be to change the 2 Republican districts. Your goal can be to make sure I don't do that. And I'd be happy to have you give it a try.
So you're going to do it as a podcast?
Yeah, it'll be a podcast. It'll be an
Audio.
audio-oriented podcast. But I'll do it on YouTube because I've got all the television stuff, so I might as well.
Right.
Might as well use it, but it will be audio forward.
You can do talking heads and kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it's got to be
bring in people to talk about the issues and what we're doing about it.
If it somehow surprisingly takes off and is able to acquire finances that I can hire people and do something, then I'll do that. I'll be looking for volunteers to help me from the podcast community here. And we'll see. So that is why you're not going to see me much on ham radio now. My interest in ham radio itself has waned considerably. And there's some shows in that. People have mentioned that as show topics over the course of the 6 years that I've been doing this. Say, could you do a show on hams that have lapsed and come back and have lost interest or, whatever? Mm-hmm. And I, in the 50 years that I've been a ham, 10 years of those, I didn't do anything. I was out entirely. And 27 of them have been here in North Carolina. So I've been pretty active all of that time. But my interest is waning. I don't want to do the digital modes. I promote them a lot, but I don't want to do them. And I find that I rarely get into a conversation that really holds my interest. So many of them are the formula. And I'll try to inject something into a conversation. I thought I was better at this than I am. I try to inject something into the conversation, and it's like talking to a styrofoam wall. It just kind of lands there and does not get reflected back. Mm-hmm. I'll bring up something interesting, and I'll get, and traffic is pretty heavy here. So, hams are not great conversationalists. Once in a while, you can get somebody doing something fun.
Right. And otherwise, if you catch them on the way to the snack shop, that's what their mind is.
Yeah.
So you're going to get weather and traffic, and I'm looking for lunch.
Yep. Which when people say, what do hams talk about? Most hams talk about radios because it's what they've got in common.
Yep.
And the stuff that gets charged outside of that, that gets some blood pumping and gets some interest flowing, I have found around this area to be right-wing politics. And they do not want to hear someone challenge their belief system.
Right.
I could come in and break in and say, well, let's discuss what you're talking about, because you got a 3-way, 4-way roundtable, and it's all choir members preaching to each other. And let's look at what you're talking about. That is not welcome. Mm-hmm. Don't know if you've run into any of that.
Yeah, in the circles that I hang out with, there are political views out kind of across the board, and I think that's one of the things. Like in the old Wild West, you agree to leave your gun outside the the bar. We leave politics and some of those things outside. And
yeah. Well,
what it is. So occasionally you'll have conversation about it, and I've experienced some of that, but politics and religion, I don't go there.
Yeah. And maybe this is sort of a reflection down toward us from watching cable news and stuff, where it's all argument, it's charged argument, and it doesn't have to be, because people have ideas on multiple sides of an issue, and they can be discussed rationally. All the litmus test questions can be discussed rationally and say, okay, here's your position and here's my position. But that's not what happens. Everybody has to be right, and they have to shut you down.
I wonder, yeah, I probably should just stay away from this one.
Yeah, because you're going to be here and I'm going to be going away.
Yeah.
But it's sort of, you'll find it's going to be a little bit in this ARL thing.
Well, it may or may not, because if they slam it through and when they vote next month they get their 2/3 plus 1 whatever, it's a done deal. And based on the changes that I see that are there, they're building their team and they're stacking the deck. There may not be a lot of going back from. It's just going to be what they want to push. What it is. I'll still be a member, and I'm not proposing. I don't think anybody, you, I, Dan, Rich, Sterling, I don't think anybody thinks that anybody will be better off if we all pull our memberships. It's a good organization. They do good things. I participate. I'm looking forward to see what happens next year with all the changes they've started kind of leaking out around Aries. I just would like it to be a little more representative.
Yeah. And doing this show, the folks, Dan and doing the blog, Sterling putting on his blog some, and it gets an extensive comment section on QRZ. And the CQ probably being the biggest stone getting tossed in the pond. I still think it's all voices in the wilderness. I think they're going to get to do what they want to do with just ignoring whatever opposition that there is. And I'll spend some time before the board meeting trying to draw out my director and vice director who won't be able to say, no, we can't talk about it because of the code of conduct.
Right.
But we'll see if that's successful, and everybody else should try to do that. But, is it going to be effective? And who knows? Maybe when this stuff comes up, they'll have a vigorous debate and they will decide some of it can't, has to go. Poor David. Wait a minute. I'll let you, no, I won't make you be the only picture.
At least I remembered my dump button.
Yeah, to fade it down.
And I was like, went for the mixer, and I'm like, wait, no, the mixer's not on.
You're not going through the mixer now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that reminded me though that I invented a Q code a while ago. It didn't get adopted widely. I think I might have even. Yeah. So I'll watch you suffer for a while. This is funny. So I invented a
Q code.
I invented a Q code. And I think I mentioned it on the show. I'm not sure that I put it on in an ARL article or QST article back when I was welcome to write those. The Q code is QBC. And your microphone is still off. So QBC is, well, as you know, Q codes go just the QBC and then QBC question mark. So QBC question mark would be, are we having a boring conversation? And then the response of QBC would be, yes, we are having a boring conversation. Terminate immediately. Are you back?
I'm back.
Terminate immediately. And I left it at that for a while, a couple of years. Did this a while ago. You can tell how well it caught on. You can see my influence on ham radio, worldwide webscape or hamscape. But I've decided that we could do better rather than terminate immediately. It could be, let's make it a better conversation. But then I've tried that and it hasn't worked very well. So maybe I'm back to terminate immediately. So QBC.
All right. Well, I'm still gonna try to drag you in now and then when you have time, and when we have hot topics like this. There's lots of good.
We'll see.
So of course, as one of your penultimate shows, We have 30 people watching right now. Which is more than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And a lot of commentary. People are going to miss you.
Like the last episode of Seinfeld was probably one of their biggest. The last episode of MASH was their biggest.
I remember.
But I'm not going away this episode. But
yeah, no, I know.
But a good time to start the other show would probably be a year from inauguration, a year from the Women's March.
Well, you want to be. Oh yeah, okay, right.
It's going to take a while to build up.
Yeah, you want to be built up and get in there. I think there's talk about they're going to have another one of another Women's March. My wife started making hats.
That makes sense.
I'll email you with whatever she had, but they're doing hats again. You know, that whole Women's March was all the
pussy hat.
Yeah, that's right. And I know.
When did the word pussy become something you can't say on TV?
My wife said my wife made 5 or 6 of those that she sent along.
You're staying away. You're staying away from the word, aren't you?
No, it's okay. I joke about stuff like that all the time. I'm not the best influence on my children with my choice of language at times. And I know a couple times.
Leader.
Oh, I know. And for the most part, I try to be on my best behavior, especially here because I know this is getting recorded for into perpetuity and beyond. And so I try not to. I mind my P's and Q's. But I have there's nothing wrong with the pussy hats.
So what do you think you want to do with ham radio now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have been thinking about it. I want to continue. I like finding the stories. One of the things we talked about in our, running down the year-end wrap-up for, what happened in ham radio this year. There were some really good exposure, not good stories, as you pointed out, but good exposure for ham radio, right? There were...
You're talking about in the general media.
Yeah, in the general media. In outside of our circles, the ham radio circles, on the nightly news and CNN and this and that and whatever, you heard about amateur radio being there to save the day. And as you pointed out, yes, it was probably some news clip, some snippet, some B-roll that somebody had from something else, and it wasn't really live or anything other than maybe somebody's net, but we were in the news, and we did, amateur radio operators did great things to help the community in Texas, in Florida, in Puerto Rico, in places that I may have missed, they're not any less important. So, I'd like to be looking at those stories. I'd like to follow up what's going on with the ARRL and where it's going. I'm interested in, I started all this with you due to my interest in MCOM. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Aries. There was a big non-news news flash like a week or two ago saying, stay tuned in January for all the changes we're going to see. I don't exactly know what they are. I know that there's going to be some new web-based portal to track everyone better.
Yeah, the rumors that I've gotten on the Aries thing is that it's going to be centralized, and it's very decentralized now, and that is not necessarily good news.
Well, some of the little bits and pieces. So I think there's going to be centralized data reporting so that people knew what's going on, and that may be. And I'm putting this is coming out of my own head. That may be some of the lesson learned around Puerto Rico. They put out a call and they took whoever they took the Fabulous 50 or whatever, which ended up being 22.
Force of 50.
Yeah, the Force of 50. Sorry, and they took them with little or no vetting and not a lot of information about them, and they didn't have the ability to do more than that because they don't have any centralized data. Excuse me. So I can see how gathering the data could have value if it is a top-down structure like FEMA or something else that's based out of Newington instead of Washington D.C. and structured more corporately. Who knows what it will end up looking like and if it will be good, bad, or otherwise. I don't know. I think that you're
if that,
probably
if that
right.
were the thing that was sort of happening in isolation, then you could argue a good or bad thing other than knowing who you've got, a better idea who you've got. That seems like, pretty much a good thing.
Yeah. Yes.
But when it came in the midst of telling PIOs, don't talk to the media, send everything to headquarters, and then the rest of the stuff that we're seeing, that seems like it's all coming out of more of a
corporate mindset.
Well, as Rich said, circle the wagons, and apparent paranoia. And then I have made some overtures to get league officials to talk, and have all been turned down or ignored. We'll make more, but they are certainly not coming out of the woodwork to say, wait a minute, we're being unfairly tossed under the bus here. Here's the other side of the story. We're not hearing that. They are battening the hatches.
Right. And if the message really is, and the message has been, don't talk to anybody, send them to the corporate PIOs, then the corporate PIOs should be lining up to talk to us. And they're not. But we're
friendlier. Although this isn't an unfriendly place, it shouldn't be. Not appearing on Ham Nation, on 100 Watts on a Wire.
Tom Gallagher was on Ham Nation.
He was there to do the press release version of Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Okay. But he was there. But he showed up.
Well, yeah. And that's been all too rare.
Yeah. I agree. And it is kind of a softball-y kind of show, and didn't expect to probably have very much question and whatever. So
and the other sort of weekly roundtable is the roundtable, the Tom Medlin W5KUB Amateur Radio Roundtable, and we're not getting their participation there either.
Right.
Tom doesn't really go for any of the political stuff. I yet to hear him bring that up, but it could happen. I mean, CQ had stayed away from the politics, the ham radio politics, for a long time, and this just got to be a little bit too much for Rich. So,
right. So, and again, as Aries changes, I do agree that a more corporate mindset will probably be a fail, because again, it was one of the things that we've seen kind of across all the folks we've talked to, across the country, folks. All over Oregon. We've talked to folks in Florida, in your neck of the woods, in my neck of the woods. Every Aries team has a different mission, and it's really hard to prescribe the response to that mission from on high. In wherever they decide the centralized Aries, management will sit, live, be. Whether it's Newington or somewhere else, that will be a challenge. I know one of the other things I heard was they were really going to go more and towards requiring, the minimal FEMA and maybe some of the ARRL training, right? So, the ICS 100, 200, 700, 800, and maybe some of the MCOM courses that Aries offers. I think that's a good thing. It may prevent some folks from showing up, but it will mean that the ones that do are better educated and trained, which sometimes is a problem when we get too many people that come that aren't, well versed in what they need to do or need to play.
Yeah.
More of a kind of a COML kind of mindset.
I worry that it will lose volunteers, but then I wonder what the utility of those volunteers is. They can go sit at a shelter, probably without too much trouble, and that's a big part of what we do. Is just minding a shelter with communications as either the only thing they've got if they're in a bad area, or backup if their phones are working. And you don't need a lot of training for doing that, although you may need a little bit more than you think.
Right. And it's not like we're asking anybody to go get a bachelor's degree in amateur radio. It's, those four ICS courses maybe will take 4, 5, 6 hours.
Yeah.
And it's nothing you have to go, fly somewhere or something. You can sit on your couch with your laptop and get through it when you want to.
Yeah. What I'm seeing that concerns me some is that there are a small group of hams that get very interested in MCOM, and they'll go through all the FEMA courses, and they will become really super pro amateur MCOM people. And that's That's great, but there's not enough of them to do what needs to be done when a big thing happens. And
Right.
and why weren't those the 50 people that went to Puerto Rico?
Well, I didn't go because I couldn't afford to take that time off.
Yeah. Well,
Because I'm one of those people. You know, that was my story. I've taken all those classes. I think the other
but they
challenge
couldn't come
is-
up with 22 or 50 folks that had that level of expertise.
Well, I think if they had a database, maybe it would have
They knew
been
who they
easier
were.
to, yeah, exactly, to go out and go after those people. But I don't know. I could be wrong. I'll assume one of the check boxes, and I haven't seen the list yet, the application or whatever it is you have to do. But I'll probably do a show on that as I go through my signing up. You know, and I'm sure that one of the check boxes on that is, you know, are you available to deploy, you know, outside of your, you know, regular domain, you know, yes or no, right? And typically my response is going to be no. I gotta go show up at my job every day, or at least most every day, and, you know, feed my kids and get them to school and whatever. But, you know, if there's a localized disaster here, it would be a different story. But I couldn't pick up and go to Puerto Rico. And there's probably a lot of other good hams out there that are in the same boat.
Yeah.
And there may have been some of the hams that they took down there that should never gone.
That's the story that we got.
Yeah.
I ran into the same kind of thing, although I didn't want to go as an MCOM volunteer, but I wanted to go to Katrina. I wanted to go to the original one that got me interested in starting all this was the Challenger disaster breakup over East Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be there to document what hams were doing on video and in print, because I didn't think that we got enough of that going on, pictures and especially video.
Right.
And for every one of those, I had work to do, couldn't get away.
Right. And that's one of the things that I've kind of find, you know, in the last 6 months or so, more than, you know, and I've been doing this for over a year with you now. But in the last 6 months
Yeah, we
or so,
forgot to celebrate your 1 year anniversary, by the way.
Yeah, it's okay.
I feel bad about that.
No, don't worry about
A
it.
little.
Yeah.
I rarely feel bad about much.
But I've been out in the field a couple of times and struggle with, I really want to cover this. You know, we did the shakeout, which was as much as I've done. We did like kind of a live, you know, live from the field. This is your field reporter, David Goldenberg, kind of session there. And,
It was cool.
and it was really cool. I had a really good time, and I got some good feedback from some of the folks
Especially
that were
like
there.
you being called away live to go do some work.
Yeah, and that was what I struggle with, because you know, there is kind of a core team that shows up, and I'm part of that core team, and when I do show up, I've got a job to do.
Mm-hmm. So you agree
and
with me
it's-
that the publicity guy is a separate job?
Oh, absolutely, 100%, absolutely. And I would, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but I bring a high level of technical expertise and, you know, quick thinking on my feet to the MCOM side of our Aries group that I wouldn't want to.
Here's what I want to react to that. Ooh.
Well, no, I know.
I know that's.
Yeah. So I just like, I don't, if I were to give up the, I'm going to show up to your disaster, whatever, and be someone who goes and helps, versus I go and show up and I act the PIO role. I'm doing a disservice. I'd be doing a service to the ham radio community, right, in the PIO role, but I'd be doing a disservice to the rest of the community that needs me to be helping with whatever other technical expertise I can provide. And yeah, I did probably sound like a conceited jerk there, but
No, actually not.
that's what it is. And that's a struggle. And I want to, and I have to figure out a way to, you know, maybe it's I need to do more Elmering or mentoring or bringing other people along so that they can sit in the seat where I sit today, so that I can stand behind them with a camera and bring them and everybody else awesome shows about what we do.
And yes, and that is one of the things that I had to consider, because I was doing the PIO job here in North Carolina. I was PIC for a while, and then doing PIO, and recognized that I also had just plain old MCOM skills that were probably a notch or two above the the typical recruit. There were plenty of people that knew as much or more than I did, but I was above the median line. And it was difficult to stay just in the PIO role. And then I wanted to do this, and this made it just about impossible to do PIO.
To do PIO, yeah.
And this goes back to the 10,000 hams, $10 a year, $100,000 budget. You know, if we had a $100,000 budget, I would take about half of that as salary. And I would spend about half of that getting my butt around the country, not just to Hamfests, but if there was a breaking event somewhere, you know, a hurricane hits Houston, you don't go to Houston as the hurricane is arriving, but a couple of days later you get there and document what the hams are doing. It turns out that they did things, but no one covered it. Mm-hmm. Don't know that it would have been possible to go to Puerto Rico then, but it would be possible today. You know, I can't afford to do it, but if there was a budget to do that, I would be there. Probably would have been there a couple of weeks ago, as soon as it was viable for an ordinary civilian to get down there. And it's open. Puerto Rico is open for tourists.
Yeah.
So. And
it may have been hard in the, you know, in those days when you wanted to go to get there, you know, based on the, you know, they were having but at some point, you know, the right relationship with the right folks that are, you know, the ARL, although, you know, we may or may not be burning that bridge, you know, Red Cross or other organizations would get someone, at least help grease the wheels to get you down there.
Yeah.
And I agree, if this were more financially supportive, those are the kinds of things I'd like to do. I'd love to go to Dayton and cover it and join you at the TAPR conferences and, you know, Orlando and whatever. And we'll just see where it goes.
Speaking of which, I do expect to do the TAPR conference in 2018. It's going to be in Albuquerque, by the way. Mm-hmm. And I'll run a Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter will have to succeed. And it will be probably an $8,000 Kickstarter. And I will not promote the heck out of it. I'm going to be a hard ass about that because this is something I care about. This is not my passion. Doing the TAPR conference is a job. It will be a paid job. It will be a discounted, highly discounted job because it's not an $8,000 job. It's a $25,000 job. And other professionals would say $25,000, that's still giving away the store. Yeah. But $8,000 will cover my expenses and my time and make it worthwhile. But I will not push the hell out of it. The TAPR folks will have to do that. Right. And if the Kickstarter, it'll run in June, and if by the end of June and the thing is over, it hasn't made the nut, then I won't go. And I tried that one time previously and didn't make it, and I still went. But
still
this time,
anyways.
Yeah.
How many people do you think go to TAPR?
Up to the conference?
Yeah.
100 to 125.
All right. So there's you know, $10 a person doesn't get you there.
No. No, it is one of those things that, because most of the videos from it they're also in the 500 to under 1,000 category. Only a few of the talks end up with 2,000-3,000. Mm-hmm. And some of the talks that really should end up at 2,000 or 3,000 don't, which is kind of sad. So it is a small niche area of interest. I got one of our fans that is strong supporter of the TAPR conference and also a strong AMSAT supporter sent $100 for having done the TAPR conference and said, look hard at doing the same thing for the AMSAT conferences. And I wrote back and said, that's not going to happen because as a business, the finance is not there. And as an interest area, I can't donate that to the ham radio cause because I can't afford to.
When you were selling the DVDs, were the numbers better or?
Oh no! In terms of how many people saw them, the biggest selling DVD sold about 350 copies. That is pathetic. And that was the last big field day. That was a great program, fun for anybody to watch. Didn't even have to be a ham. every radio club should have played that as a club meeting program. Well, I deliberately made it 45 minutes. Yeah, the amount of time your club can sit there. It got a good full page publicity in QST. It was well known about, and it sold 350 copies, and rave reviews everywhere.
Right.
And that was my the leading edge of my big disappointment, because it was my first big program.
And what'd you sell them for?
$20.
$20. So you made $6,000 or something like that.
Yeah. It paid for itself.
Right. So it or the
But not my
Kickstarter
time.
is about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. Okay.
So my overall conclusion is that the ham, and now we're getting more and more programs, and the people that put them on, they're all vanity exercises, which is fine. Most of podcasting is an ego and vanity exercise, and it will be for you.
Yep.
It's something that you want to do because you enjoy it and you think it is valuable and you can afford to do it. And I have stopped enjoying it and consider it valuable, and I can't afford to do it. But mostly there's something else that's more important that I want to do.
You got something else you want to go on to do. Yeah.
So
all right, well, I'm going to take it. I'm going to run with it. I started writing down ideas, and
in terms of the finances, I'm going to switch the Patreon to your bank account early in the next month, which is approximately, well, we looked at, it was a little less than half.
Yep.
And because I'm still going to Orlando because I've got that booked, so I'll still go down there and I'll do some shows down there. And so I'll hang on to the PayPal stuff that's coming in until that's done. And then we'll see what the technical ability is to shift that, or just have people stop doing PayPal and do Patreon.
Right.
When you tell someone, when someone is set up for a monthly contribution and you say, you got to change this over to something else and you got to do the work, you're likely to lose them. That's the problem. So we'll see.
Yeah. I hear you. All right. Well, we'll see where it goes.
Yep. So what are the folks saying on Facebook?
Let's see. Wilson Haynes said the last big field day was the greatest ham DVD on the planet. People talking about going to Puerto Rico or not, or we know what Aries is about, and talked about the classes. They're going to miss you. Folks want us to do shows, talk about Hamvention.
There's still 26 people there. One of them was you, but not me.
Yep. Just the regular chatter in the room.
Okay.
That's usually how it goes. So I guess it's a year in review. Is what we are.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about the ham radio year very much.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we talked about the big stuff, the all the hurricane crisis. Yeah. This, I guess, was the year of the digital radio, right? This, all of the big end, the ICOM. Well, I guess the 7300 was out last year, but they're kind of hitting it.
The software-defined radio stuff.
Yes. Yeah, software. Yeah, SDRs.
It's the year everyone says that software-defined will no longer be a feature. It'll be standard.
Yeah.
It isn't yet with every radio. ICOM has now got a few.
Right.
Kenwood and Yaesu have yet to announce theirs.
Right.
And if they don't, they're going to be hurting. But no one is saying that analog radios have a future, other than the QRP, the little QRP stuff, the kits, things like that, stuff that is not likely to ever be SDR. Although you never say never, because someone could do that technology. The logo behind you reminds me of something. In addition, the Ham Radio Now logo that Mark made.
Oh yeah, yep.
That in addition to the idea of doing a show, is that I brought a wide variety of technical skills to doing this, and I've been kind of watching the industry. There's a whole lot more people that work behind the glass in the industry than work in front. And, most of my career was doing that, is editing. I didn't sit on the other side from the studio where the talent was. Didn't have any talent anywhere near me most of the time. But they went out in the field, or they went to a studio and recorded people and brought it back, and I would edit it. I did work at some TV stations for a little bit, and but never the live on air end of things. So over there's a very small handful of people that are on the air, and behind them are tons of people that do most of the work.
Yep.
Get none of the credit except for their name flies by at the end of the show.
Yep.
And a lot of those people have some ability to be more than just the button pushers, more than George Jetson. And I thought that was me all the time I was doing that. I had a few, dip my toe in broadcast radio a little bit. Initially, I was terrible. And then in the late 80s, I tried it again and did a whole lot better. And so I started this and thought, well, I really don't know what I can bring to the table. And one of the things that I was positioning Ham Radio Now to be is a personality forward program. Unlike a lot of the others where people will say, I'm going to teach you how to solder or put a coax connector on, things like that. They're not attempting to project a personality. I definitely was. So that's a real vanity and ego proposition. And it didn't work. Didn't make the show highly successful. It's worked among a lot of you. A lot of you say, love the show. When you say love the show, it's not because I taught you how to solder a coax connector. So I'm going to assume it's because you like listening to me yammer. And then there's Bert, who would like me to edit myself out of everything and just leave everything else.
But he's still he's at least commenting if he's not listening.
He's watching all the time. He's sucking it all down.
Yeah.
So, but either, I didn't appeal to enough people to just went nuts about it. And so maybe, ham radio is just not that kind of a field.
Possible. I don't know. I'm going to keep trying for a while at least.
In the early days and up into my, first decade or so, QST had a lot of writing in it that was not just dry technical or operational stuff. These days, QST is about as boring a magazine as you can get if you're not looking for the next construction project.
Yeah, or
contest. Yeah. It's all formulaic, dry, lack of personality writing. And I tried to inject some of that in the articles that I wrote, and was surprised that they actually kept a lot of it, but they did. But I haven't seen much more of it. Hiram Maxim wrote the Old Man series that were very curmudgeonly and not technical and very much commenting on the state of ham radio. When I started reading QST, there was a couple of authors that just had commentary on the way ham radio was. And they don't do that anymore. And I think that's something that's lost. So that's what a lot of this show was aimed at as I was doing it. But, again, didn't find its audience, and maybe it's because there isn't an audience to find. So again, you get to take it in your direction.
Yep. I'm going to try. And who knows, maybe we've maxed out the audience. I don't know. I'll keep doing it for a while, see how it goes.
We'll see. You'll do something a little bit different. And
yep.
And I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Well, thank you for handing me the reins. Or at least starting that process. I still have a little bit more work to do here in the studio.
Yeah, that's where I was going. That I brought a lot of technical stuff, graphics capabilities, a lot of Photoshop, and the editing, video editing, and production capabilities. And you have some of those, but you will be developing a lot of those from scratch because I just brought them from work.
Right.
As I retired from what I was doing, I just applied those skills to doing this when it got cheap enough to do as an individual. So maybe that means you'll need some help from guys like Mark.
Yep.
You know, are you thinking of trying to line up a co-host? Because doing this solo is hard.
Yeah. At some point, I probably will. I'm hoping to lean on you for a little bit, but you'll figure it out. I don't have anybody in mind yet. I know. I mean, we've had some, kind of rotating guests on and off, and I'll be, leaning on them for a while. And yeah, I think one of the things that we were doing more early on, and I've been a little distracted for the last 5 or 6 months with big project at work, is really having good guests on, consistently. And it'll be easier to do, having good guests to kind of drive the show, and having less of our full sessions or our, bringing in, the quote unquote regulars. And hopefully that'll work out, and I may find somebody along the way. We'll see.
Okay. I would recommend finding a young female.
Yeah.
Which is very hard to do.
Yep. I got a couple of young female hams in the house.
You do. Maybe one
they'll
of them join you. Because they're in that. They're interested. They are enthusiastic, and they are brand new.
Yep.
And if they've got the personality to project and show, like the ham kid, like Sam.
Right.
It's like, I'm learning this, and I really don't know very much about it, but I want to talk about what I'm learning as I'm learning it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that could be cool.
Stuff for me to explore.
All right. I think it's time to shut this this episode, the last episode for 1927.
Yeah.
2017.
That's right.
I just started to get used to writing 2017 on documents. I don't write checks anymore, but on documents.
So it's funny. I think the only place I ever write the year is on checks or whatever forms I do. And I'm ready to go for the next one.
Yeah. All right. Well, Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year. You guys have a great evening.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
So,
so we should close. So,
no, we still need to,
yes, we still need to do a pitch. So, Ham Radio is brought to
that one or this one.
Take
your pick.
I like that one. Ham Radio now is brought to you by you. So if you like what we're doing, please visit hamradionow.tv and find Arvin and click the pig.
And pretty soon it's all going to go to him.
It's pretty soon.
So, okay. Make that go away, and we can do this.
And again, thanks for joining us. I'm David Goldenberg, W0DHG.
I am Gary Pierce. KN4AQ. Over.
And out. Well, what we didn't say was we're the most important ham radio.
We never said that, did we?
On the internet. Somebody called it out on the when I was going through the
on Facebook,
the chat room. Yeah, somebody called it out.
Well, see, that's good. They're picking that up.
Yeah, they're following us. Yeah, it's some of it's a cast of regulars, but I see some new names in there now and then, and it is encouraging to see that we posted out there and people are watching. I don't exactly know who it is, but
yeah, and I didn't give them a lot of heads up, and I even screwed up the time for the folks on the West Coast.
There you go. And there were 52 comments this show, which is a lot, and there's still 25 people out there watching our title crawl, if we had a title crawl.
Well, the word has gotten out that this is the best part of the show.
That's exactly right. And if I were Ferris Bueller, I'd stick my head around the corner and say, "Are you still here? Go home. There's nothing left to watch."
They did that at the end of
Deathpool. Or Deadpool.
Was it Deadpool? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Deadpool. And he's wearing the same bathrobe. And actually, somebody did a great comparison. They did a side by side like we're doing right now of the original Ferris Bueller and the Deadpool next to him. And basically they, not 100%, but they took 80% of the script, including the decoration and the wearing the bathrobe and all of the other stuff. I mean, it was
okay. So they knew what they were doing. It was a
total homage to Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It wasn't.
And I was going to. I was expecting you to say ripoff, and I was going to say no. It was an homage.
Oh, it's a total homage. Oh, yeah. completely, 100%. In fact, you could probably pull it up in your browser. If I had everything going in Wirecast, I'd pull it up in YouTube. There's a side-by-side comparison, although that would probably be our takedown.
Let's see. Ferris Bueller. Stop it. Deadpool.
Is it the cat or something else? Is that?
Okay, there we go.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so they did this side by side.
Oh, okay, yeah. Clearly.
Clearly. Oh,
it's
yeah.
even a stripe.
Still here?
Oh,
You're still here. It's over. It's over. Go home. Go home. Or go. Go.
yeah, it's total. It's total. I mean, the wallpaper, the robe, you know.
Okay.
Oh yeah, this was 100%. This was a fun thing, and we're going to do this because actually, I think, and I don't know for sure, I think that the Ferris Bueller, role at the end was one of the very first, throwing something in at the end of a trailer crawl, because I don't remember that from being a kid, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off came out when I was a teenager or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't know if I ever saw that in the theater. It took a long time before I think I ever watched the thing all the way through.
Uh-huh.
And they shot a lot of it around Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
because that was the set, and up on the North Shore where I lived, they had a lot of locations, but I didn't recognize any of them. They were a little bit too close to specific things. Deadpool was a great movie that no one expected to be that great.
Oh, I did.
And I'd never seen. Did you read the comics or anything? Were you familiar with the characters?
A little bit.
Yeah, all that stuff. I read comics when I was a kid. That was in the 50s.
Yeah, and Deadpool's a whole different kind of comic.
Yeah, I read the DC comics: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern.
Yep.
And then I stumbled on some Marvel movies or comics, and I thought, oh, these are bad boys.
Yes.
Yeah, this is comics with an attitude. I shouldn't be reading this. This is right. Underground stuff. I was 8. Give me a break.
Yeah, that's all right.
And then I grew up, stopped reading comics. Grew up, 35 years old, stopped reading comics. And then these movies started coming out, and the Marvel movies were way better than the DC movies, and still are, sadly. I'll still see them all, but
I mostly wait for the DCs to come out on, Netflix or whatever.
Yeah, so I was totally unfamiliar with the Marvel cast, the cast of characters, and I was unfamiliar with the changes in the DC cast of characters. Because things have changed. So I just watched the movies for being the movies, and they come up with the Ant-Man. I've never seen the Ant-Man before, and the Deadpool. But the thing about Deadpool is Thor, the new Thor movie, thought it had to be Thor Deadpool, because now he's got to be snide and cracking jokes, and
there was always a little I think in like the Avengers there's always been a little tongue-in-cheek back and forth, and maybe the last one was a little more over the top,
way more.
But Guardians was the same thing, right?
And that also for me came from left field. And so I'm thinking the folks at Marvel said, look at this. Well, clearly the audience likes this, so we're going to
selling.
Yeah. So wait till the next Avengers. It's going to be full of it.
Yeah, it's possible.
And
I don't think it'll be quite as raunchy.
DC tried a little bit with Wonder Woman and then totally collapsed in Justice League.
That was one we saw, but when we were in Rome, we saw Wonder Woman in the theater there.
In
on
English
vacation.
or subtitles?
Yeah, no, in English. And
With
it was
Italian subtitles?
no, it was the theaters there. It was like an AMC whatever, and it was they had English and they had Italian. And
Oh, you could take your pick.
You could take your pick of the showing that you wanted to go see. And we went for the English showing, and it was full of them. It was packed, and there was a big line. And I actually enjoyed that movie. But most of the rest of the more recent DC ones, I've waited until they come out on, HBO or something like that, and watch them there. I haven't been as impressed.
Yeah.
I was hoping to see. Somebody told me that Justice League was really good.
Justice League was uneven.
Okay. Somebody I know said that they really enjoyed it, but I hadn't made it out. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't tell anybody who said they really enjoyed it that they were wrong, because it could hit all of their all their marks just fine. And it was above the 50% line. For me, it was in the positive territory. It just, Wonder Woman set up expectations.
Got it.
But
and,
yes, what the expectations it met were the Batman versus Superman expectations. The low bar.
The low bar that would be better than that low bar.
Well, it just went that direction. It went back down there. So
Got it.
I have been enjoying the Rotten Tomatoes feud between the critics and the audience for things like Last Jedi, and to some extent Justice League. With a 93% critics rating and 50% audience rating.
Is that how they both went? Because I don't follow any of that stuff.
That's what I remember from Last Jedi. So what it's basically meant is that the audience ratings have become fairly useless. The critics' ratings are still useful to me. The audience ratings are not so much. Although I wouldn't have given Last Jedi a 93. It was in the low 80s for me.
Yeah, it's probably about accurate. I sat there watching the screen roll when it first came up, and I thought, gosh, I saw A New Hope when it wasn't called A New Hope; it was just called Star Wars. And I was 11 years old. I saw it in the Avco Westwood when it first came out, and that was 40 years ago.
Yep. Yeah, I saw it. I was 27 years old, so I was deep into adulthood.
Yeah.
And it was game changer.
Yeah. And when I was 11, I just thought, wow. I didn't exactly know what it was. Like we said about, some of the stuff you have to watch it 2 or 3 times to get it all. I just knew, holy crap, that was awesome.
Well, 2001 came out several years before that. So, I mean, it was also a game changer. But Star Wars was, the fantasy as opposed to pseudo reality. The big problem it caused me, the big thing that it did for me was, since I was working at a television production company, is that everybody wanted a title that would fade into
the crawl.
Yeah. The opening title. Everybody wanted to do that in their commercial, and we had no technology for doing that. And then a year later or so, someone invented a device that would let us do that. Of course, no one wanted to do it anymore.
Nobody wanted to do it anymore, right? And anybody who saw anybody doing it was like, oh, they're totally ripping off Star Wars.
Yeah, that'll be okay.
Okay, I'm going to eat dinner.
So there we go. The best part of the show.
The best part of the show. We almost hit our 2-hour mark.
It again.
Cindy had a good trip?
Well, she was down there helping her folks. I mean, we had as good a Christmas holiday as
enough said.
One might expect.
Enough said.
But yeah, they need more assistance than we can give them regularly, and she just happened to have a week. Her company was closed, so she gets down there and do that.
Cool. All right. Well, say hello. You guys enjoy tomorrow night with whatever you're going to do.
Going to go visit AC4ZO and KD4ZVW and Bobby's going to cook us dinner, and we're going to watch a couple movies and watch the ball drop and come home before the drunks hit the road.
So as soon as the ball hits the bottom, you're gonna get in the car and
We'll be standing
drive.
up with putting our shoes on.
Is it far?
4 miles.
Oh, that's not bad.
far,
My
not big roads.
my son dropped on me that he's invited to some party until midnight, and Chatsworth is probably 8 miles, and I'm like, I might pop an Uber for you. I don't want to go driving then. Not that I'll be drinking, but I just don't want to. It's all the drunks on the road.
Yep. That's what we always worry about. As we alcoholics refer to New Year's Eve, amateur night.
Amateur night. There you go. All right. Well, let's put it in the can, and we'll talk soon.
Okay.
I may ping you the next day or two about once I get the cables. Maybe tomorrow I'll get the other cables that I need, and we'll see what it sounds like. I guess if I record it and play it back, I should be able to hear if there's any hiss.
Yeah.
Rather than bother you. I tried
you're-
to Skype myself, but it's hard to hear on the other thing.
Skype will take a lot of stuff out. So not a lot of that noise will come, although I was listening to you on Skype and it was coming through.
Yeah, and I used it to prove the concept. Can you actually hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah. I think if you listen to yourself through Wirecast,
Okay.
because you were going through the USB connection to your computer, and if you listen to Wirecast, but don't try to listen to yourself talk, because it's going to be delayed.
Okay.
You can't monitor Wirecast, which has bit me a few times because I was a little distorted into it. That's another thing to play with, is level where the levels are. If you look at my Wirecast, you'll see that I'm not ever going above -15.
Right.
No, I take it back, -6. They're really going logarithmic on that. -6 is probably higher than I really want to go.
Yeah.
And if I go much higher than that, it's going to clip.
Okay.
So over here, for those of you watching the, with that, what am I grabbing wrong? Oh, I see YouTube Red. I don't want that. Over here is the little green icon that says that we're on Facebook, and that's the hard drive version. Tell you what, I'm going to stop the hard drive version now. I always stop the Facebook version first. I'll stop the hard drive version now. Goodbye, hard drive.